Hello everyone, and welcome to the very last video that I will be making for the course of Green Marketing. Now for this video, we're going to be focusing on the case study that we talked about in this module, which is the case study of SEKEM. Now, one of the points of this video is to talk about some perhaps common questions or points that need to be pointed out as a result of learning about SEKEM. Now, one of the things that you may have noticed is the idea that the word green marketing never appears once. And there's a reason for this. Green marketing as a very new concept doesn't necessarily do something particularly new, but it's more of a culmination of many different ideas and many different approaches to be brought together. However, what you will hear constantly is the concept of sustainable development. Now, I don't want to say that the two are equal, but as we've talked about in previous videos, green marketing is a part of that aspect of sustainable development. It is a way towards achieving sustainable development. And SEKEM gives a really good practical example on how to achieve this kind of direction. Now, I want to point out a couple of things that might have been noted throughout the other videos, or some things that you might have thought of. Among them, it needs to be considered the idea that how are they still profitable? And this is like maybe a bit more of a complex question than you might realize, simply because when you ask, or when you look at any company and you ask them, why do you do this? Why do you pollute? Why do you destroy the environment? Why? The answer is always a very pragmatic one. It's not something out of desire to do harm. It always comes down to, we want to reduce costs. We want to maximize profits. But the idea is that SEKEM is profitable. It's very profitable, in fact. And through its initiatives, it's managed to found many different companies. It's managed to found an NGO. It's managed to make a university. It's managed to do many different things, despite all of the initiatives that you heard in the previous video, from the clinic to the schools to the development projects to etc. And here is where the green marketing strategy aspect comes into play, that is really applied. Now, in SEKEM, the green marketing strategies that we talked about in the previous module, like the kind of True Blue or the Sprouts or all of these other things, these aren't taken into account by any way. It's not even a consideration for them. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't use a green marketing strategy. The way that they implement it is, once again, and I know I might be overusing this word, but there is a reason for it. They take a much more holistic approach towards the marketing. It's the idea that it's not, the trend is now for organic, let's make organic crops. No. It's a more general idea, but it still ends up in profitability. So for example, you have the farms make organic crops. Well, what does that do? Well, it increases costs, but because of the nature of the organic produce market, it also increases revenues. And you'll find an interesting offset, and you'll find profits that are either unchanged or maybe only slightly reduced from other traditional products. In other aspects, because SEKEM is based in Egypt, it also allows for significantly more exports because they follow the regulations of the European Union for organic products. It also allows for an increase in the kind of brand perception and brand identity. When you have a product of SEKEM, like for example their teas or their herbal drinks or anything like that, we see in either the European or the Egyptian market, they have a very strong brand recognition, and people understand that when you have these kinds of products, they're very good, they're very beneficial, and they're always organic. But it doesn't stop there. You then have the aspects that, as you might have heard from the interview with Mr. Henry, of the CSR. The corporate social responsibility of SEKEM is not, as I mentioned before in other videos, some parallel process. It is an integral part of the companies. When you're talking about the clinics or the schools or the other initiatives or the NGOs or. But once again, this is not something parallel. Well, what does that mean? Well, the thing is that because SEKEM includes many different farms and has many different employees, it is an entire village or community in and of itself. And by developing these things, the schools, the clinics, the NGOs, the things, what it can do is it can serve both the community and its employees at the same time. Now, these initiatives are drive costs significantly. Most of them are not profitable. But the idea is that by offering these services, you get higher quality employees engaged. You get the entire community engaged. You get a better brand association, a better brand recognition. And once again, this leads to the higher revenues and to the higher brand recognition and all of these different aspects. The idea is that it's not simply one, you take it off and it's done. It's an entire comprehensive approach. It takes the ecological with the cultural, with the societal, and the economical pillars of sustainable development, and they bring them all together in one comprehensive approach towards green marketing. Now, whether or not they call it green marketing is not the issue. It's the idea of everything coming together. So there is a pragmatic aspect. There is the aspect where, yes, there is the aspect that you can reach profitability. Whether it's also like another aspect that I didn't talk about very much, but was talked about obviously was the idea of reducing, for example, the costs through the packaging, or by reducing wastes and minimizing the kind of materials that are used, and all of these different aspects. When you bring all of these together, you have your green marketing initiative, and you have a recipe for profitability, for success, and for growth. But you can't just consider the idea that because it is green, well, we're going to lose money on it, or because it is green, I'm targeting the people who are interested in green, or I'm targeting, if you remember module 3, we're targeting the true blues or the sprouts or whomever. That is an approach, and I gave it to you as a way to begin looking at and understanding and implementing a green marketing strategy, but that isn't the end goal. For me, the kind of strategy discussed in Module 3 are steps towards a more comprehensive and holistic approach. The final thing that I want to get across is the idea that the idea here is not to be, completely just focused on the environment. That is not the idea of green marketing. Green marketing is everything, and most importantly, it has the aspect of marketing. We're still making a product, we're still making a service, we're still manufacturing, we're still using resources, we're still contributing to the economy. These aspects aren't negative. They aren't detrimental to the idea of sustainability or sustainable development. It's actually the opposite. You need these aspects. But within a broader context of environmental, societal, and cultural awareness and contribution, you then start to realize the idea that green marketing is a whole lot more than just reducing waste or taking care of the environment or contributing to habitats or something like that. It is a comprehensive approach, taking every aspect of the company. If you want to read more about SEKEM, I put a case study in the following section. It's a bit long, but it's a very interesting read. And the general idea is not to copy SEKEM. It's not the idea to just replicate it, but to take from the ideas on how did this company manage to implement an idea that is virtually unheard of to be implemented in Egypt, and then use that in implementing different concepts and still managing to become profitable in the Egyptian market. If it can be successful here and it can be profitable here, I guarantee you can manage to implement these ideas or these foundations anywhere else in the world, and you could still manage to find success. Thank you all for listening to this video. I hope you all enjoyed the Green Marketing course as much as I did. If you have any questions, please leave them in the final discussion, and I'll try to answer them as best as possible. And I thank you all so much for taking part. Thank you.